पुलिस वाले करेंगे.
Protests by top Olympians become national issue. Never seen before rebellion by medal winners. Big sexual exploitation charge against the federation. On of debates at 9 p.m.
Burning question presented by Samsonite.
Assault by Telangana BJP chief son. Can Neta brats beat up common citizens? Has the BJP failed to curb VVIP racism? Debating tonight at 10 p.m.
Right now I'm reporting from the Jantar Mantar of National Capital, and behind me are the wrestlers who are protesting at this point in time. You can see Bajrang Punia sitting there, you can see many other faces who are very known and have got a medal for the country, and they want the federation to be changed.
आप पहुंचते हैं सीमा सुरक्षा बल सर. लास्ट पोस्टिंग बिफोर रिटायरमेंट वाज डीजीबीएसएफ सर.
डीजीबीएसएफ में उन दिनों देखिए सबसे बड़ी चुनौती मेरे लिए थी कश्मीर की. कश्मीर में उस समय
आग लग चुकी थी सर.
हाँ, आग लग चुकी थी, बुरी तरह से लग चुकी थी. बीएसएफ के पैर जम चुके थे, बीएसएफ की धाक थी. मैं सोपोर का दौरा कर रहा था तो वहां मैंने देखा कि दूर कोई झंडा फहरा रहा है. ये किसका झंडा है भाई?
Burning question presented by Samsonite.
जहाँ पे लड़कियों के रूम थे, महिला खिलाड़ियों के रूम थे, उन्हीं के रूम के सामने उन्होंने रूम लिया. मेरे को खुद जूनियर खिलाड़ियों ने बताया है कि वो रूम हमेशा अपना ओपन रखते थे जबकि उनके सामने महिला खिलाड़ियां रहती थी.
Sexual harassment charges haunt Wrestling Federation of India boss accused of making female players uncomfortable.
रिहा इस्तीफा तो हम उनका लेके ही रहेंगे. अगर हमें और ज्यादा उकसाया जाए तो हम उनको जेल में भी डलवाएंगे.
Icons of wrestling Olympians continue their fight against Wrestling Federation president.
I think this is a propaganda piece. This film or documentary is a reflection on the agency and the agenda behind it. And frankly, we do not wish to dignify such efforts.
Delhi Women Commission chief sexually harassed on the streets of capital while inspecting women's safety. Prime Minister Modi in Mumbai inaugurates projects worth 38,000 crores in the financial capital. Well, good evening. This Thursday, 8 p.m. burning question. Massive controversy, friends, over the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Modi. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs has trashed the BBC documentary and called it completely biased. MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said that this is a propaganda piece and has no objectivity and it's biased. He even raised questions on the purpose of the exercise and the agenda behind it. Here's a report, and then I come back to discuss.
The Western media propaganda is at it again. The Prime Minister of India has been targeted. BBC telecast the first episode of a two-part documentary on Prime Minister Modi on Tuesday. There was massive anger among Indian diaspora over the fake narrative being peddled, and the External Affairs Ministry has responded.
Let me just make it very clear. We think this is a propaganda piece designed to push a particular discredited narrative. The bias, a lack of objectivity, and frankly a continuing colonial mindset is blatantly visible. If anything, this film or documentary is a reflection on the agency and individuals that are peddling this narrative again. It makes us wonder whether about the purpose of this exercise and the agenda behind it, and frankly we do not wish to dignify such efforts.
Earlier, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak shut down an attempt by Pak origin MP to use BBC documentary to target Prime Minister Modi.
Modi was directly responsible, and just what more does the Foreign Office know of his involvement in this grave act of ethnic cleansing?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the UK government's position on this has been clear and long-standing and hasn't changed. Of course, we don't tolerate persecution where it appears anywhere, but I'm not sure I agree at all with the characterisation that the honourable gentleman has put forward.
The attempt to tarnish India's image by the former colonizer has enraged Indians across the globe. But when will the Western media wake up from their colonial mindset? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
He was.
All right, a very strong defense there coming in by Prime Minister Sunak of Prime Minister Modi. But then the BBC, which had become boring broadcasting corporation a long time back, has it now become Bakwas Broadcasting Corporation? Has it become Bewajah Broadcasting Corporation? Or has it become Bewkoof Broadcasting Corporation, the kind of content they have generated? Joining me to discuss that and more, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF, live from Delhi. Ashok Sajjanar, former diplomat, live from Delhi. And then, let me begin with Ehtesham Hashmi, advocate, Supreme Court, live from Delhi, because I'm told that he is going to defend the BBC. If you are doing so, Mr. Hashmi, please tell me, since when, in the right mind of any observer, Jammu and Kashmir became a Muslim problem? For God's sake, that's how the documentary presents Kashmir, as a Muslim problem, Mr. Hashmi.
Actually, a few anchors already have a set precedent in their mind that in which fashion they want to conduct the debate. I am not favoring BBC, or neither I am rejecting their submission on Narendra Modi. As a citizen of India, it's my point that for that genocide which has taken place in Gujarat after Godhra incident, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and Narendra Modi is single-handedly responsible for that genocide. And possibility of involvement of government officer also
the Supreme Court does not say so.
This is my opinion.
Mr. Ehtesham Hashmi's court? Okay, this is your opinion. You qualify. It's not in your court that Narendra Modi is convicted. It is your opinion. Let me go to Ashok Sajjanar, sir. Sir, what do you think BBC could be intending by creating this documentary at this hour? You know, this comes a few months after a final sort of closure has come from the topmost court of the country when it trashed the review petition or a curative petition that was filed by certain activists trying to keep the Godhra and the post-Godhra incidents on a slow burner. Mr. Sajjanar,
in my view, I think
what could be the agenda of the BBC?
Yeah, in my view, BBC still seems to be suffering from a colonial mindset. They still seem to be under the impression that they have a role to play as far as India is concerned. Also, I think since the time they came, the East India Company was formed and Britain came into India, they've followed the divide and rule policy. So I think this is again at work. This is basically, it's a rehash. Meaning, has there been any new evidence that has come that has prompted the BBC to come out with this documentary? Not at all. So, why are they rehashing it? And I think this is, as the MEA
Sir,
has
with
said,
due respect, have you seen the documentary?
It is a discredited narrative Let me ask
Sir,
you,
have you seen the documentary?
In any case, I think, I would request the anchor to please keep the other panelist under check, because I'm not here to answer his questions.
Yeah, Mr. Hashmi, I'll come to you.
Definitely, you are here to answer our questions.
Sir, please continue. Please complete your opening comments. I'll give you opportunity, Mr. Hashmi. You have not responded to my question that I asked you earlier, but then I'll come back to you again. Mr. Sajjara, please go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is that there is no new evidence which could have prompted BBC to come up. Whatever I have heard, there is some report by the former British Foreign Secretary Jack Straw, and they seem to have mentioned that. But why did they have to wait for 20 years? What I feel that this is, very biased, and it's a very motivated propaganda, because they see, and the BBC sees, and certain other institutions and agencies in the world see, that India's clout is rising. You see whether it is the World Bank or it is the managing director of the IMF or the UNDP. They are all singing praises for the Prime Minister. They are all singing praises for the manner in which India has been conducting itself, the economy, politics, everything. India is today the presidency of the G20, presidency of the SCO. India is, celebrating the 75th anniversary of its independence in a very befitting manner. So I guess, to pull India down, to pull the Prime Minister down, this has been, and it's a totally, whatever some of the formulations, it talks about Kashmir's special status guaranteed under Article 370. It is a temporary provision of the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, why?
So even in terms of the accuracy, I think it leaves a lot to be desired. Last point I'll make here, Abhishek, is that I think only what it will contribute, this BBC documentary, it will further discredit, it will further reduce the credibility of the BBC and bring down its viewership in a very big way. Abhishek.
Absolutely, but still we have to try to understand, sir, what would be the objective agenda, who could be behind this motivated targeting of the Prime Minister of the country. Sushant Sareen, Mr. Hashmi is not responding to that question, but you have to explain to our viewers, why should BBC call Kashmir a Muslim problem? Why should they have problem if Article 370 is removed? Why should removal or abrogation of Article 370 be seen as a sticking point in the relationship between the government of India and its Muslim citizens? It's preposterous, to say the least. And this is the same BBC, Sushant Sareen, which gets those exclusive videos and footage of violence, of stone pelting that happens in the valley post abrogation of Article 370. You see some connection there?
There's not any one connection. There are many connections, Abhishek. Look, number one, even that stone pelting which happened after Article 370 was watered down, it's not been abrogated, was basically in one mohalla of Srinagar. It was not throughout the state or the erstwhile state and now union territory. It was only in a small portion. But the BBC and its very poised...
Oh, Sushant, hold on to your thoughts. Sushant, hold on to your thoughts. I have to take a small breaking. I'll come back to you in just about 40 seconds. And this is an important development, which is that the Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur is all set to meet the protesting wrestlers who have made some serious charges against the Wrestlers Federation of India president. And he is someone who is a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, who is a member of parliament from the BJP, Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, and Anurag Thakur, all set to meet the wrestlers, to listen to their demands, listen to their pleas for justice at 10 p.m. This meeting happens at 10 p.m. tonight, which means that the union government finally hearing to these protests taking place at Jantar Mantar since yesterday, 72 hours after those protests began. A visible intervention coming in from the union government, with the Union Sports Minister, who is also Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Anurag Thakur, all set to meet these protesting sports persons, many of them Olympians, medal winners, at 10 p.m. Remember, they have made serious allegations, including of sexual harassment against the BJP MP, who's president of the WFI. For more details, let's go to Aishwarya Kapoor, our political editor, who has this information. Aishwarya, finally, the Union Sports Minister coming around to meeting these protesting wrestlers. The government understands that the pressure was building up on the issue of perception, or you think that there is a solution in sight, and that's why the Union Minister is meeting these protesting sportspersons. Aishwarya.
Well, Abhishek, there is only one solution, that the man needs to resign, and the man in question is Brij Bhushan Singh. The sports minister has accepted. He was not in Delhi. He has accepted their demand to meet. He's meeting them tonight itself. 10 p.m. is the meeting that all of these protesting wrestlers will meet him. But the solution is only one, that Brij Bhushan Singh resigns, and that is something which even BJP as a party, but the government needs to understand that the allegations are not of mismanagement, but of sexual harassment. The seriousness, the gravity of the matter is that multiple Olympic winners are coming out and saying that there have been more than a dozen cases of sexual harassment, and they are somewhere or the other connecting the dots to Brij Bhushan Singh. Let the investigation happen, let the process happen, but what we are being told, that there has been some communication from the sports ministry back to Brij Bhushan Singh that he has to go. But will that confirmation be given by the sports minister to these protesting wrestlers? We'll come to know post 10 p.m. But that's the meeting tonight, and an important one between the protesting wrestlers who are demanding. Yes, Abhishek, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Aishwarya, there with that breaking news development that the Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur would be meeting the protesting wrestlers and possibly some solution thrashed out between the two sides. On that note, I go back to the conversation I was having on the issue of the BBC documentary which targets the Prime Minister and singles out the Gujarat violence of 2002 to paint the Prime Minister with a certain slant. Going back to Sushant Sareen. Sushant, you could complete your thoughts. Sorry I interrupted you, but that was an important development coming in. I have my most persistent question with the BBC would be, why, and to the Muslims of India, for God's sake, is Kashmir a Muslim problem or an Indian problem? Sushant, this answer has to come really.
So, Abhishek, like I was saying, about the disturbances after the watering down of Article 370. The BBC out here was led by this very poisonous, quote-unquote, journalist by the name of Nicola Karim. And she orchestrated this entire campaign against India. It didn't really wash down very well, among others. But at one level, you have to accept that the problems in Kashmir is an Islamic problem, not a Muslim problem. Because the jihad in Kashmir is an Islamic issue. The Pakistanis have made it, and some of the jihadists in Kashmir have made it an Islamic issue. So I don't think it's an issue of Muslims. But of course, the BBC, coming as it does from not so great Britain anymore. The reason why I say this,
Sushant.
I'll tell you.
Let me just. Yeah. There is a reason why I say this. For example, the explainer or the descriptor of the documentary says, a look at tensions between Indian PM Narendra Modi and India's Muslim minority. Investigating claims about his role in the 2002 riots, and then it says that the problem has started or increased after the abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir. Why is Kashmir or abrogation of Article 370 a Muslim problem? The BBC editors
and
the leadership there has to explain it to the viewers in India.
They won't explain it because when in 1990 jihadism broke out in the Kashmir Valley, how much did you see the BBC report on it and report it the way it should have been reported? Did you see any of it? Because at that time, BBC was one of the strongest flag bearers of the jihadists worldwide. Because the same jihadist mentality was fighting against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. So let's not talk about unbiasedness and, objective reporting. The BBC and other organizations, Western media organizations, have been always a very pernicious, prejudiced and poisonous mindset towards India. There's never been any doubt in my mind, at least, that they've done this. And this particular documentary has been a hit job. Now, for the BBC, for example, to say that the British Foreign Office investigated this issue. Please tell me, in so many riots which have happened in India, Please tell me any one riot in which there has been the kind of scrutiny, there has been the kind of investigation, there has been the kind of accountability in court after court after court on multiple occasions, as in the case of Gujarat riots. And with a central government which was hell-bent upon persecuting the then Chief Minister of Gujarat. And yet, if the top court of this country has acquitted him honorably and said that there is absolutely no evidence, but Jack Straw sent some minion to Gujarat to investigate. What was the nature of that investigation? Was it that, like, some eminent economists talk to taxi drivers and make their opinion on politics? Did he go and talk to some taxi driver out there?
Since you mentioned this, since you mentioned this Foreign Secretary report, in fact, we have a tweet coming in from our former Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibbal, and I would want the Sajjanar sir to, get into this. I wanted to go to Mr. Hashmi as well, but let me go to Mr. Sajjanar first. Kanwal Sibbal, India's former Foreign Secretary, has tweeted a couple of hours back, in the morning in fact, and he says that I was the Foreign Secretary during this period or that period. I am aware of the mischief of UK mission here in Delhi. They sent their diplomat to Gujarat and circulated highly slanted report to the EU envoys in Delhi. Was informed by one of them, which prompted me to issue warning to missions in Delhi to not interfere in our internal affairs. Mr. Sanjanar, you are a career diplomat. You must have been in the service when this happened. If you can throw some light as to why the former Foreign Secretary had to really intervene at that time and has to come out with an explanation now.
The MEA official spokesperson said today that this is reminiscent of the colonial mindset of, the BBC. And if it is still, the colonial mindset continues to exist 75 years after India's independence, then 2002 was just 55 years after India's independence. So the colonial mindset was very much there. And they use the words, as I mentioned before, they use the words investigations and inquiry, meaning who is BBC or who are the representatives of the UK government who are working in Delhi as diplomats. What right do they have? Do they have a mandate to go and do an inquiry and investigation? So I think this is really reminiscent of, this the fact that they still continue to have illusions of grandeur, that they still continue to rule this country, and their word will have precedence over the word of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said
illusions. I wonder, sir, if these are illusions of grandeur or illusions of the past, actually. But ironic as it is, Mr. Hashmi, did you miss the irony that this documentary comes on a day when Prime Minister makes a very public outreach to the Muslim community of the country through a party platform? He is instructing the cadres and the leadership of the BJP to go and make an outreach to the Muslim community and to other backward, underprivileged sections of society. He has done that earlier in the last 6 months. Like, this is the second time in the last 6 months he has made that outreach or asked his party leaders and cadres to make that outreach. Also, remember history. Mr. Hashmi, the BJP forgets Ayushman Bharat, the Sabka Vikas. The BJP forgets Jam Trinity, which applies equally to every Indian citizen. Let me complete. I am asking you a question. You will get your time to answer, Mr. Hashmi. BJP forgets the digital public goods like the Aadhaar card, BBC. The BBC forgets the Pasmanda Muslim outreach. And Mr. Hashmi, because it is about Gujarat, let me ask this question. Mr. Hashmi, hold on. Do you have something to hide? Do you have something to hide? Is there some guilty mind? If there is no guilty mind, listen to me. If there is no guilty mind, listen to me. Mr. Hashmi, in 2011, the SIT gave clean sheet to Narendra Modi, the then Chief Minister of Gujarat. Hold on, listen. Mr. Hashmi, listen. Arey, Mr. Hashmi, सवाल तो सुन लो यार. Listen to the question. Listen to the question, Mr. Hashmi. You are a senior Supreme Court lawyer. You have to listen to the argument, then I'll ask the question.
And it's a matter
listen,
of proud for me
in 2011, Narendra Modi got the clean sheet.
And I may choose to differ. on this point with you.
Okay, now,
Abhishek,
but I'm taking it
can
forward.
you deny this
I'm
fact?
putting
Just
across a
1 second,
political
my dear
argument.
friend.
Listen,
My
I'm
dear
putting
friend, just
across
1
a
second.
political argument.
Just 30
Listen,
seconds.
Mr.
Just 30
Hashmi, I'm
seconds.
asking
Can
you,
deny this fact
do you have something
that
to hide for
almost
God's sake?
2,000
Why are you
people
not
lost
listening to
their
me?
lives because of Godhra riots? And who was the CM
No,
at that
this
point
is
of
a lie.
time? Who was the
This
CM?
is a lie.
Who
You are
should be held
perpetuating
responsible
in
for that
cahoots with the
carnage?
BBC, perhaps. Mr.
Who
Hashmi,
should be responsible for
2,000
this
people
death
did not
carnage?
die. There is an
I
exact
invite
figure of
BJP
900
leaders.
something,
I
of
invite
which
Narendra Modi to
200
file a
something were
suit,
Hindus
to
and
file a
rest were
suit against
Muslims.
BBC.
For God's sake, don't perpetuate
Why
these lies
BJP
which
government
have
is
been
not challenging
debunked
the BBC report?
year after year.
Who is stopping BJP leaders to challenge
Okay,
the
now-
BBC report? Why they have not filed a suit?
They have done that. I have a question for you, Mr. Hashmi. You are not contesting against the BJP. I have a question for you. Listen.
I'm not
2011,
contesting.
Narendra Modi
I'm
got
just
the
worried
clean
about
sheet.
my
He said,
nation, my
"Saptamev
constitution of
Jayate."
India and my fellow brothers and sisters.
Yes, you have a right, but listen to the question. I also have a right to ask you a question since you are on the panel.
Yes, please.
The question is, Narendra Modi launched Sadbhavna Fast. Across all the 33 districts of Gujarat, he went fasting, sitting there for a day after a 3-day fast in Ahmedabad. He made a very public and open outreach to the Muslim community of Gujarat. The result was in the 2012 victory. It is believed that anything between 12 to 15% Muslims of Gujarat state voted for Narendra Modi. Similar numbers perhaps voted for Narendra Modi in 2019. Is
What
that
is
a
the-
reflection
what
of
is the
tensions between the Muslims
percentage of
and
Muslim
Narendra Modi? For
representation
God's
in
sake?
Parliament of India? What is the percentage of Muslim representation in various
By
Lok
the
Sabha,
way,
Vidhan
this
Sabha
was one of
and with
the
other
points,
government functionaries?
one of the 14
What is
points
the
in the Lahore
percentage of
resolution of Muslim League. For God's sake, don't be stuck in 1929,
IAS
Mr.
and
Hashmi.
IPS lobby. Have you seen the interview of Karan Thapar with Narendra Modi? Have you seen that interview, my learned friend? Have you seen that interview? And I invite Mr. Narendra Modi through you. The whole nation is
we have to
watching.
really,
Let's
Sushant,
watch
we have
that
to really
documentary.
rescue Mr. Hashmi from this very
Indians are
selective
willing to
recall
watch
of
that
history.
Documentary. What's wrong in it? We must respect each and everyone's opinion. BBC is not a roadside channel.
Tushar,
BBC is not a roadside channel.
I think Mr.
It's the
Hashmi
most authentic
is just
source of news.
refusing to acknowledge the water that has flown down the Yamuna and the water that has flown down the Sabarmati, Sushant. I think you have to really rescue
don't
him
want
from
to
this
acknowledge the
selective
fact
recall of
that-
history. Sushant, quickly, last 30 seconds. Sushant.
Abhishek, I can't shout over him because he's got verbal diarrhea and he'll keep talking. He thinks, I don't know what he thinks, this is a fish market or something. Now, the bottom line is that I
See,
don't even
listen, don't try to make
to a
personal
person
comments.
like this guy Qureshi fellow.
You must
Because,
have
you know,
seen
frankly,
lots
it's a
of
pointless
because you
Yes,
are
hold on.
because
Mr. Hashmi, then you have to listen. Mr. Hashmi, then you have to listen. You are not listening to Mr. Sajjanar, a veteran
because he
senior
keep
career
blabbing
diplomat.
his mouth
You are not
off,
listening
right?
to Sushant. You are not letting me anchor. That's unfair. Sushant, you
He'll
get
keep
your last
blabbing
word,
his mouth
Sushant.
off. Yeah, carry on blabbing
Do
your
you-
mouth
do
off.
you- do you have
don't
a
make
break
any
of-
sense.
No,
You're
Sushant,
incoherent.
let's focus on my question.
Carry on. Abhishek, I can't talk to
You
people
can't
like
because you
him.
don't have any knowledge about
He's
facts, about
he's a
about
third-rate fellow. I don't
Indian
even talk to
culture.
him.
Okay, it's
You are going to
unfortunate
teach me
that
Indian
Mr.
culture.
Hashmi is
No
clearly disrupting
What culture do you have?
this debate, but
Indian culture.
this will continue. You know, the best answer, of course, has come from the British Prime Minister himself, Rishi Sunak there, clearly holding the mirror to that Pakistani origin MP whose name is Imran Hussain, and Sunak there saying that the UK government's position, of course, has been very clear and long-standing, and that they do not agree with the characterization of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the BBC documentary. On that note, thank you so much, Sushant, Mr. Sajjanar, and Mr. Hashmi, of course, for joining us in this debate. Thank you, viewers. On the other side, Shawan with the other very important story, and that's about the protests by these very accomplished sports persons and wrestlers of the country against their own federation. Shawan, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Abhishek. It's undoubtedly a crying shame when the country's sporting legends have to be on the streets so that their demands can be met. This time, sporting legends are in the national capital because they say that many of them have been facing sexual harassment at the hand of the Wrestling Federation of India president. Over the last 24 hours, we have seen top icons of the wrestling arena coming here in the national capital, making some very sensational charges. It was against the Wrestling Federation of India president, a man who has a political link, a political representative who now refuses to step down. Take a look at this report and then we begin the debate.
कुछ जूनियर खिलाड़ियों ने बताया है कि वो रूम हमेशा अपना ओपन रखते थे जबकि उनके सामने महिला खिलाड़ियां रहती थी। महिला खिलाड़ियां उन्हें बताया कि वो अपने रूम में से सिर्फ ट्रेनिंग के लिए ही निकल पाती थी और अगर वो मतलब उस रूम में वो रह मतलब आप कंपटीशन में गए हुए हो और वहाँ पे खिलाड़ी कंफर्टेबल नहीं है रूम में ही, तो अब कैसे आप कंपटीशन लड़ोगे या खुद को कंफर्टेबल करोगे वहाँ पे?
ये हम वेट कर रहे हैं कि कुछ संतोषपूर्ण जवाब आए हमारे पास में। कुछ आप लोगों में से ही बोल रहे थे कि अध्यक्ष जी बोल रहे हैं कि 22 को इस्तीफा देंगे। बात उनके इस्तीफे का नहीं हो रही है, इस्तीफा तो हम उनका लेके ही रहेंगे। अगर हमें और ज्यादा उकसाया गया तो हम उनको जेल में भी डलवाएंगे। हम चाहते हैं कि उनका इस्तीफा लीजिए और उन पे कार्रवाई की जाए।
हमारे पास आप देख सकते हैं सारे हिंदुस्तान का जो आज जो रेसलिंग का जो हब है वो यहाँ बैठा है, जो रेसलिंग की करीम है वो यहाँ बैठी है, वो अपने फ्यूचर के लिए लड़ रही है यहाँ पे आके। और जो बोल रहे थे कि कोई सामने आ जाए तो मैं फांसी पे लटक जाऊंगा, जो अध्यक्ष जी ने हमारे ने एक बयान दिया था। पहले तो 1-2 लड़कियां थी, अब हमारे साथ 5 से 6 लड़कियां हैं विद प्रूफ है।
के बीच में पहुंची हूँ सिर्फ इसीलिए क्योंकि मैं कुछ भी होने से पहले एक खिलाड़ी हूँ। और दूसरी एक चीज, आज जो भी कुछ है ये बबीता फोगाट जो नाम दिया हुआ है ये मेरी कुश्ती नहीं दिया हुआ है और आप पूरे देशवासियों का दिया हुआ नाम है। और इसी की वजह से मैं चाहती थी कि आप लोग मेरे जितने भी यहाँ पे बहन भाई सब बैठे हैं, जितने भी कुश्ती के जो प्रेमी हैं, कुश्ती खिलाड़ी हैं, ये मेरी कुश्ती की जान है, यहाँ पे बैठे हैं। और इन सबके सपोर्ट में भी आज मैं कोशिश करूंगी कि इनकी समस्या का मैं समाधान जरूर निकलवा दूं।
Joining us at the burning question tonight are Vikram Yadav, a wrestler from Firozabad, Ranjit Bajaj, ex-footballer, joining us from the national capital. In a short while from now, we're also being joined by Rohtash Singh, who's the president of the Haryana Wrestling Association. Vikram Yadav, आपसे पहले शुरुआत करना चाहेंगे कि जिस तरह से ये आरोप लगे गए थे, ये कहा जा रहा है कि ये कई जो संगीन आरोप है, इससे पहले इसके बारे में क्यों नहीं कुछ कहा गया, और साथ ही साथ ये कहा जा रहा है कि इसके पीछे कोई राजनीतिक कारण हो सकता है, ये कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं। आप इस पर क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
तो पहले जो आवाज थी वो दबा दी गई है, अब जो मुद्दा उखड़ के आया है वो सामने है, अगर इसकी जानकारी की जाए मैं तो ये कहना चाहता हूँ, और क्या सच है क्या गलत है।
विक्रम यादव, क्योंकि आप खुद आपके साथ जितने लोग हैं, कई लोग आज दिल्ली में हैं, आवाज उठा रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं कि इतने सालों से ये चल रहा है पर इसके पीछे इसके बारे में किसी ने ना ही कंप्लेंट की, ना ही इसके बारे में कोई शिकायत दर्ज की गई थी, जिसके कारण आज आप देख रहे हैं कि सबसे बड़े जितने एथलीट थे, सीनियर एथलीट्स जितने थे, उनको यहाँ पर आना पड़ रहा है। इसके पीछे कारण क्या है?
कारण जो कोई आवाज उठाना चाहता है वो दबा दी जाती है। वही मेरे भी साथ तो हुआ था, कुछ ऐसे में पॉइंटों में हार गया था और बताया था कुछ, अब जानकारी की जाए क्या सच है क्या गलत है, और पहलवानों को इंसाफ मिलना चाहिए।
मैं चाहूंगा कि आप हमारे साथ जुड़े रहे। कैन आई ऑल्सो ब्रेक इट राइट नाउ? रंजीत बजाज, the fact of the matter is that this has been happening for a very long time. Many of the players perhaps could not really muster the courage to come out in the open and take on those who are considered to be extremely powerful. And this basically exposes the rot in our system. And we've seen this not just in the Wrestling Federation. Allegations like these have also emerged in various other sporting associations, but we do not see a comprehensive change, and that is the reason why we're looking at such kind of incidents.
Totally agree with you. This needs a total cleanup. So this needs a systematic change. So it's not like you pick and choose and then, this is a one-off problem with one federation. This has just been brought out to the public in such a huge way because they're Olympic now world champions talking about it. See, when earlier in other federations, this was happening, and it was being brushed under the carpet because the sportsperson's voice who was bringing it up wasn't that strong compared to the federation president or the coaches. This time, the voice who's bringing it out is of a sportsperson who's brought such laurels to the country, the country is grateful. We are all grateful to these people, and we'll always have a debt to them. And when a country is in debt to sports people like these great laurel champions, and they come up with this allegation, then it becomes such an unsafe place for women, for sports, for living, for morals. There are no ethics left anymore. Because if you have even world champions going through this, which father will ever send his daughter or even his son to that sport? And that goes across all party lines. I mean, this is a matter of shame. In fact, not only should he be arrested immediately, because all he needs is the testimony of a woman, and that's good enough according to law. And it's on him to prove the things. The FIR has to be registered. He has to be arrested. And in fact, not only that, I think BJP should expel him to set an example that this kind of nonsense where morals are concerned, because in the armed forces, moral turpitude is the biggest thing. And here we are having our daughters being subjected to this kind of nonsense.
In fact, Ranjit Bajaj, I'll request you to stay on. Let me also quickly go back to Vikram Yadav. Vikram ji, कई लोग ये सवाल उठा रहे हैं कि अगर ये इतने सालों से या इतने महीनों से अगर ऐसे कंप्लेंट्स आ रहे थे तो इससे पहले इसके बारे में क्यों नहीं बातचीत की गई। और दूसरी बात ये है कि अब तक इस पूरे मामले को लेकर रेसलिंग के फेडरेशन से या जितने एथलीट्स हैं उन्होंने अब तक कोई कंप्लेंट क्यों नहीं दर्ज की, एफआईआर क्यों नहीं दर्ज की।
अब जो कुछ तो गलत हुआ है उनके साथ, जो अब जानकारी हुई है, अब जो कोई मुद्दा उठा रहा है वो सही है, उसको दबाया ना जाए। अब देखे आप लोग कि सभी पहलवान इकट्ठे हम और दिल्ली में
विक्रम जी, आप जब कह रहे हैं कि इसे दबाने की कोशिश की जा रही थी, इसके पीछे कौन है, कौन दबाने की कोशिश कर रहा था?
अब जो फाउंडेशन में जो बैठे हैं वो लोग वही दबाते हैं।
मैं चाहूंगा कि विक्रम जी आप थोड़ा खुल के बात कीजिए ताकि हमारे दर्शकों को पता चले कि आखिरकार रेसलिंग फेडरेशन के अंदर में क्या हो रहा था, क्योंकि आप एक तरह से ये कह रहे हैं कि सारे जो स्पॉन्सरशिप आते थे वो स्पॉन्सरशिप डायरेक्टली प्लेयर्स को मिलती थी, अब फेडरेशन को मिल रहा। तो कहीं ना कहीं ना ही सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट की चार्जेस लगा रहे हैं, एथलीट्स ये भी लगा रहे कि कहीं ना कहीं करप्शन के चार्जेस भी लग रहे हैं।
हेलो
विक्रम जी, अगर मेरे सवाल आप सुन पा रहे हैं, विक्रम जी मैं जो सवाल करने का कोशिश कर रहा था कि एक तरह से क्या आप मेरे सवाल, विक्रम जी आप सुन पा रहे हैं?
जी बताओ।
विक्रम जी, मैं जो सवाल करना चाह रहा था कि आप कह रहे हैं कि इसे दबाने की कोशिश किया जा रहा है। विक्रम जी, आपको सुनाई दे रहा है?
जी जो दबाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो फाउंडेशन में जो लोग बैठे हैं,
दबाने की कोशिश किया जा रहा था।
हाँ,
मैं चाहूंगा कि आप थोड़ा खुल के बताइए कि इसके पीछे कौन है, क्योंकि एक तरह से जब आप कह रहे हैं कि कुछ महिलाएं एथलीट ये कह रहे हैं कि सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट हो रही थी, दूसरी तरफ मेल एथलीट्स ये कहते हैं कि करप्शन हो रहा था इसके अंदर, क्योंकि जो पैसे पहले स्पॉन्सरशिप के तहत उनको मिल रहा था वो अब उनको नहीं मिल रहा था, कंपनियां को फेडरेशन के द्वारा जाना पड़ रहा था। मैं चाहूँगा कि आप पूरे दर्शकों को खुल के बताएं कि आखिरकार फेडरेशन में हो क्या रहा था।
बहुत कुछ गलत हो रहा है उनके साथ, बहुत कुछ गलत हो रहा है और इसकी जानकारी की जाए और क्या क्या है, और जो पक्की जानकारी, शर्मनाक जगह है वो।
Mr. Bajaj, you've heard one of the wrestlers also, talking about how this body was essentially operating. Now, we've already addressed the fact that we have seen this happening in other sporting bodies, but there is another issue which basically has, is plaguing our sporting fraternity. That essentially being that on the one hand, we are saying that this is the glorious phase of our sporting time, but at the same time what we are essentially looking at is that there is politicians who are handling these sporting bodies, making it very difficult for athletes, especially when they face such issues, to come out in the open and to talk about it, because there is a fear that this is going to have a major backlash in their own career.
That's true. That's very, very true. In fact, it's like I said it before, systematic. And if you're the senior most people in your organization, like your president or the national team coach, like it's been alleged in Wrestling Federation of India, or in football, or in tennis before that, or in every other sport after a few years, it's systematic. The problem is down to that. And that is why it is so pertinent and important that the National Sports Code of 2011 be implemented, because that brings in transparency and accountability. That brings in having so they're talking about grievance redressal, a way of grievance redressal, which is even being in the organization, you have to have a way where even if you want to complain about your boss, there is someone who's independent of totally, and that guy cannot affect him. So these things are already there. They've not been implemented, and that is what we've been fighting for in the Supreme Court. We urgently need a step down, a Supreme Court to come in and say that these are the gravest offences. This is like a POSCO case happening again and again, because what happens, see, understand, my brother. See, when a child is taken away from his parents at the age of 11, 12 and sent to a sports hostel, that child's parents think that they have given it to a coach who's going to be treating that kid as his parent. And he's like his child, mera bacha hai. Uske baad, when you come to know that they've been grooming that child and these are the kind of things which are happening, and now these guys, see, they say that why haven't they been talking for 12 years? Because for 12 years, they were still one of those kids who was being groomed. So these are the ones who've come out. Why? Because they've achieved what they had to, and these guys can't touch them now. So now is the time, instead of questioning these sports people, because what will this do? If we keep questioning them and saying, Acha, you prove it, and do all that, the moment you do that, you think other people who've been going through this will ever come out? That is why this law is there now, which has been passed by the Supreme Court. The onus is on the accused to prove his innocence. It's opposite here. It's not guilt. It's not innocent until proven guilty. It's opposite. You are guilty till you are proven innocent, because a woman's word is good enough to make sure there's an FIR and the guy is arrested. So why hasn't it been done? We have to set a very strong example this time. Otherwise, we'll be letting all our sisters, our daughters, our wives, our girlfriends, all of them down, man. We can't be doing this and be talking about India being a progressive country and we are equal to the world when this is going and happening. And who's a perpetrator? It's not some common man in the street. It's a 4-time member of parliament. It's a 4-time legislator. Who the guys who we are voting for getting into power, and he's been again. If the sports code was implemented, he wouldn't have been there for 10 years, because you can't have more than somebody for more than 2 terms. So he's contravening every rule there is, even in the sports book, and as a criminal.
Let me just get one final word from विक्रम ऑल्सो. आपसे एक आखिरी सवाल ये करना चाहूँगा कि कहीं ना कहीं जिस तरह से ये आरोप लग रहे हैं, लोग जितने भी एथलीट से वापस ये कह रहे हैं कि ये धरना, ये प्रोटेस्ट जारी रहेगी, मैं ये आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि आखिरकार क्या करने से रेसलिंग फेडरेशन में बदलाव आ सकती है और मांगे क्या हैं आप?
बदलाव होना चाहिए उसमें।
जब आप बदलाव की बात करें, क्या सिर्फ आप रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया के प्रेसिडेंट की बात करें, अध्यक्ष के बात करें, या किसी और की बात करें कि किस तरह के बदलाव आप चाह रहे हैं? और एक को बदल जाने से क्या आपको लगता है कि जो बाकी जो प्रॉब्लम्स है उसकी सबकी सॉल्यूशंस आ जाएंगी?
एक नहीं, सारे पूरे के पूरे बड़े बड़े हैं, उसमें पूरी गंदगी पड़ी है। सबको हटाना चाहिए, सबको हटाओ।
बहुत धन्यवाद। We've had, there are several issues that are still plaguing various sporting bodies, but for the first time we've seen this kind of an unprecedented move that has been made by our icons who are now on the streets, and they say that this battle is still going to continue till the time they get justice. Thank you for joining us on The Burning Question.
Fulfilling 5.5 years of my life, but it has also had its challenges. Amongst an agenda focused on housing, child poverty and climate change, we encountered a major biosecurity incursion, a domestic terror event, a major natural disaster, a global pandemic and an economic crisis. The decisions that have had to be made have been continual and they have been weighty. But I'm not leaving because it was hard. Had that been the case, I probably would have departed 2 months into the job. I am leaving because with such a privileged role comes responsibility. The responsibility to know when you are the right person to lead and also when you are not. I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple.
Right now I'm reporting from the Jantar Mantar of National Capital, and behind me are the wrestlers who are protesting at this point in time. You can see Bajrang Punia sitting there, you can see many other faces who are very known and have got a medal for the country, and they want the federation to be changed.
आप पहुंचते हैं सीमा सुरक्षा बल सर। लास्ट पोस्टिंग बिफोर रिटायरमेंट वाज डीजी बीएसएफ सर।
डीजी बीएसएफ में उन दिनों देखिए सबसे बड़ी चुनौती मेरे लिए थी कश्मीर की। कश्मीर में उस समय
आग लग चुकी थी सर।
हाँ, आग लग चुकी थी, बुरी तरह से लग चुकी थी। बीएसएफ के पैर जम चुके थे, बीएसएफ की धाक थी। मैं सोपोर का दौरा कर रहा था तो वहां मैंने देखा कि दूर कोई झंडा फहरा रहा है। ये किसका झंडा है भाई? उसने बैनर, उन्होंने कहा सर ये पाकिस्तान का झंडा है। मेरे तो सुनते बदन में आग लग गई कि पाकिस्तान का झंडा मेरे आंख के सामने फहरा रहा है हिंदुस्तान की जमीन पे, ये हो कैसे सकता है? आई वांट दैट दिस प्लेस शुड बी अटैक्ड, द मुजाहिदीन शुड बी डिसलॉज्ड एंड द फ्लैग हैज टू बी टेकन ऑफ।
Indian sport champions continue their protest against the federation. It is a big Republic Newsbreak impact. The centre